So practice test. 6 questions. First one was vocab. Just a reminder, we did that one yesterday. It's going to be 12 to 13 words. You'll have 12 to 13 words in the word bank. One word used once. You don't use it again. You cross it out. I'm not going to do the thing where I add more words. I was going to do that, but this chapter test in particular is nasty. There's just a lot of vocab in this unit that we're in Unit 2. There's all the polygons, all those shapes. We had all the triangles, all the quads. We had the types of polygons. We had the types of triangles. We had the polyhedra, the regular platonic solids. We have the non-polyhedra, like the curves, like cones, cylinder. There's a lot of vocab. So I'm not going to add more to that. That's just a lot. But just a reminder on the vocab. I can pick some of those words, and I can pick some of the words that I didn't use. So I can just do kind of a mix bag. So be well prepared. Study. If you're looking at what sections you want to read in the book, if you don't want to go back to your notes, read sections 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9, the stuff that we did in your notes, right? And or in the book. I think it's definitely 1.6, 1.7 for sure. I know that there's a lot of vocab in those sections. So go back and look those up. Okay? All right, let me scroll down. We did number 2 yesterday. I think this is the last one we finished with. We finished with number 2. I would expect a problem very similar to this on test day, where it's a rectangle, where you have to find the area and perimeter of it. Can I not zoom in on that? Oh, okay, now we'll. All right. Expect a problem that looks very similar to that, where it's, kind of some rectangular shape, and you got to find the area and perimeter of it, and you'll have to find a few of the numbers that should be easy to quick to find. So expect something like that. That'll be number 2 on the first page. That makes up your whole first page. Now, number 3, area and perimeter. Now, this is the tough one. If you look at your property sheet, everyone should have a property sheet that came with your practice guide, correct? I clearly don't have one. I didn't even have one for myself. All right. Your formula sheet. If you look at the area and perimeter part on your property sheet, that's the one at the top, right? There is, 4 examples I can pick from. I can pick from triangles. I probably won't pick a rectangle just because that's number 2. But I could pick a circle. So be aware of that. It could be a triangle or a circle sitting here. So just be aware of that. I'm just going to get you prepared. I probably won't put a rectangle because that's number 2 anyway. So just kind of be aware of that. But we'll kind of go through it. I think your number 4 on your practice guide is a circle, correct? That's good. We get some practice. So it could be one or the other. So I just kind of picked one out of the homework we did. So, all right, let's walk through this. So the first thing we got to do, let's find perimeter. So now when you're doing these problems, try to show as much work as possible. I know that you're still going to use a calculator, which is great. Make sure you have one tomorrow. But just make sure that you're showing as much work as possible. So that way, if you type it in your calculator wrong and you typed it in wrong and you didn't know it, at least the work will save you a lot of the points. The work is a point, that label's a point, and then the answer's only 1 out of like maybe 3 or 4. So show the work so you save yourself a lot of points so you don't miss too many. These problems are worth a lot. There's a lot of points on this test, whether you think so or not, there is a lot. So how do we find perimeter? What numbers do we need to add?
The 3 sides.
3 sides, not the height. So ignore the little h equals 4.7 at the top. Ignore that. Okay, so we have 4.8, we have the 5.1, and we have the 2.8. Okay, those are the 3 we have to add together. Okay, you can type it in your calculator, maybe you do it in your head, I don't care. Now, what's the label going to be when you add it up for perimeter? Feet. They'll be feet. Okay, just make sure that you do not make sure you have the label. Perimeter or circumference will always be whatever the normal label is. It's the distance around. If you do area, it's always something squared or square something, right? And then volume is always cubic. So, question.
Did you want the answer?
No, I don't want the answer. Nope, no. So if you type that in, you can get it. Okay, thank you anyway. Now, let's go to let's go to the second part of this question. Let's do the area now. If you look at your little property sheet, you can see the area formulas for triangles. You have to take the base times the height and then cut it in half. So area, right? Base times height. Base times height, and then we're going to cut that answer in half, and that'll be my area. Now, what are my base and what's my height?
Base is the 2.8, and your height
Yep. Base is 2.8, height is 4.7. Boom. Those are your two numbers. You plug them in, multiply them together, cut it in half, whatever it is. It can be a decimal, don't care. Now, you can type that in. Now, when you cut it in half, just divide by 2. That's all you do. Now, what's my label going to be? Feet squared, yeah. Area, even surface area is always something squared. Feet squared, centimeters squared. Or you can say square feet, I don't care what you want to say. Okay, questions with that? I would expect something that you did in your homework. I don't make up new problems. I don't do that. I don't think it's fair. I just pick problems that you've seen previously, that you've demonstrated that you know how to do, or that we've done in class. Sometimes I do pick examples I use in class, so if you watched a class video or two, I would have done more. Okay, questions on number 3. Perfect. Okay, let's jump down to number 4. Let's do the circle. If I'm going too fast, let me know. I'll slow down. I get kind of in rabbit mode, don't even realize I'm doing it. Okay. Area and circumference. Now, you do have the formula on your property sheet for circles. It's area and circumference, right? That's, circumference is a big fancy word for perimeter. So I usually do the perimeter first. I don't know why it's just this weird thing with me. So let's do circumference here. So circumference. If you look at your formula sheet, I think it's 2 times pi times radius, right? That's the formula for circumference. 2 times pi times r. Now, what is my r?
7.3.
7.3. Now let's talk about that. You are right. That's millimeters. I gave you diameter. That's the distance all the way across, so you can tell because it's labeled with a capital D and it's the stick all the way across. It's the 14.6. Radius is always half of that. I prefer radius. I know there's a way of doing circumference with diameter, but I just use radius. So that's the 7.3. It's this number cut in half, right? You don't always have to do it. If I start with a circle that's already giving you radius, let's say that's 2.2, right? Just that's the number you use. That's the little R number I'll plug in, right? Don't cut it in half again. You only cut it in half if it's all the way across. I will clearly warn you on test day whether it's that case. I'll kind of tell you like, hey, this is a radius, so know how to use it, or this is a diameter. You need to do something to it before you start. I'll give you those little hints. Now, when we do this, we're going to take the 7.3 times the 2. Well, guess what? You get right back to 14.6 again. And you're going to take it times pi. Now, label on this is millimeters, right? Mm. I do want to see the exact answer like that, where you just, 14.6 pi's, right? But then I also want you to type it in your calculator and give me 4 to 5 decimal places. I do want to see that as well. So, if you type that in, if you don't have a little pi button, my pi buttons on my little calculators are over here. They're off to the left side. You can just hit 14.6 times pi, and it gives you a crazy decimal across the screen. If you don't have a pi button, you can just type in 3.141592. It's right up here. Pi is always above my marker board, right? You can just type in about 4 or 5 decimal places. Type it in, hit enter. As long as you're in the ballpark, you're really close, I'll give it to you, right? Because I know that your answer would be different than somebody that has a pi button, because you'll have more decimal places and it could round differently. But as long as you're in the ballpark, that's why I want 4 to 5 decimal places. It guarantees that almost everyone gets the right answer anyway. All right. Questions?
Maybe attention, please. Paige Smith, please come to the high school office. Paige Smith, please come to the high school office.
All right. Let's talk about area now. What's my formula for area? Is it pi r squared? Is that what it is? Area? Okay. So area of a circle. Pi r squared, right? Now, what's my radius on my problem? It's the radius. 7.3. Okay, so that's why you have to have the 7.3, right? 7.3, we have to square it. So squaring means you take it times itself, not times 2, times itself. 7.3 times 7.3. You should be in the the 49 range, right? Somewhere in that ballpark. It could be higher, it could be 50s, but you're in that general area, right? And then whatever that number is, does anyone actually have that number?
What?
What is it? Oh, you actually did the whole thing. Okay, I see what the final answer is. The final answer is 167 point something. But what was 7.3 squared? Say it. 53.39?
29.
29. Okay. All right, and then that's pi, and that's, what is that, millimeters? Millimeters squared. And no, notice area. It's always millimeters square, square millimeters, square feet, whatever it is. Now, that's when you take the 7.3 times itself. And then when you multiply that on the pi, that's where you get the 167 number, right? With the decimals after it. But that, I want the exact answer, like that. And then I also want you to type it in and give me the decimal, 4 to 5 decimal places. I might actually add that little stipulation on those with the circles, like 4 to 5 decimal places preferred. So be aware of that. Okay. Is there any questions up till now? Sorry, I'm going really fast. Hopefully that made sense. You're hopefully a little bit, the stress levels dropped a little bit, and you're not so stressed out about the problem I'm going to provide you. Okay, we have 2 last ones. Now, the last problems, they're in the same directions. This was very different than the last one, because the last one was a triangle, this is a circle, so they had different directions. But the last 2 have the same directions. You have to find surface area, and you have to find volume. That's where the formula sheet will come in big time. I believe the harder one, the more difficult problem is probably number 5. I know that seems really weird. I honestly believe that prisms and pyramids are more difficult than the non-polyhedra, the cones, spheres, and cylinders. Because the cone, sphere, and cylinders, whatever numbers are on the picture, they tell you exactly where to put them in on the formulas. But on a prism, you have to interpret it. You have to look at the formula on the prism and interpret what is it telling you. It's not just explicitly telling you put this number here, put this number here. You have to do a little bit of critical thinking. So the prisms are a little bit harder. So 5 is probably the harder question on the test, which I know is kind of weird because most people probably think it's easy, but it is the more difficult one. All right, so we're finding volume and surface area. I like to do surface area first. I will show you 2 different ways to do this in case you are having a mental block and you can't finish it with the formulas I provided you in your property sheet. Because sometimes that happens. People get in a panic, they get too worked up, and they can't finish it. They're just like stressed out, they can't do it. So I'm going to show you how to do it one way, then I'll show you the other way to do it. So I'm going to show you the way with the formulas first. I think the formulas are kind of important. So surface area. So we'll do surface area first. All right, now we have a formula for surface area on your little property sheet for prisms. So if you look at a prism, I believe it's the perimeter times the height plus 2b, correct? Is that the formula on the property sheet? Yeah, okay. All right, now, this is the part I said you have to interpret. You have to know what those words mean, what those letters mean. So P is the perimeter of the bottom of your picture. So on this picture, what is the base of this thing?
The 10 and the 3.
10, yeah, the 10 and the 3, right? It's that bottom rectangle. I'm gonna highlight it. I like to color it in. I'm looking at that little plate right there. That is my base. I need the perimeter of that thing. That's what P is. Okay, and that's the number for P. So how do I find perimeter for that little rectangle? What are my numbers?
10,
Yeah, 10, 3, 10, and 3. So perimeter is all the way around it. So 10 plus 3 plus 10 plus 3,
26.
26. And what is that, inches? So that's my perimeter of the bottom. The perimeter is the distance around the outside. Okay. Now, how tall is my box on this one?
4.
4. That's my H, 4 inches. So far, so good? Like where my numbers are coming from? Now, this could be difficult if you have a very weird looking picture. Maybe your picture, the base is a triangle. So you have to find the perimeter of the triangle and then take it times how tall the prism is. Because I know we did one of those in class, right? We had the little block of cheese where it looked like this. It was like 3-dimensional like block of cheese coming out at you. Or the bottom plate's a triangle. So you have to figure out the perimeter of the base. And then take it times how tall it is. All right. Let's keep going here. We got to do 2 times the base. So 2, and now we have to take the area of the base. So how do we find the area of that little rectangle on the bottom? Length times width. So on that rectangle, it's length times width. That's 10 times 3, which is 30 inches squared. That's the area of the base. Length times width for that little rectangle. 10 times 3. So if I double that, so I took that times 2, that's 60 inches squared. And again, we're in areas, so it's squares, right? And then 4 times 26, is that 104?
Yeah.
Inches squared, square inches. And then you have to add these two together. That would be your total surface area of that object. Now, let's say you're in a panic, right? That's the answer for that, right? You add those two together and your answer is something squared, inches squared, right? But let's say you're in a panic and you've done the problem and you're like, oh my God, I don't know how to use this formula, and you're trying to figure it out and you're stressed out and you can't do it. Here's the other way you can do this problem. And this takes more time, but it will guarantee you the right answer. I want to do a little bit of drawing here. All right. Okay. What you're looking at here now, hopefully this isn't too confusing. I took the box apart. I took all the walls off. This is the front of your box. That's the back of the box. That's the top, the bottom, the right, the left. It's all 6 walls, and it's a rectangle. So imagine that's your box, all right? You can just find the areas of each one separately. That never fails. It will give you the same 164. So like this wall over here, this wall right here. I'll put a little highlight on it. This one, right? That's this piece. What's the dimensions of that wall? 3 and 4. You can find the area. That area is 12. The one over here is 3 and 4. That's the other side. It's 12. The top of the box. Top of the box, this one, that's what, 10 by 3?
30.
30? Okay. That's 30. The bottom is the same. That's 30. We already did that one earlier. The front of the box.
10 times 4.
10 times 4? Yeah, the front of the box is 10 and 4. That's 40. And then the back of the box is the same. This is 12. You can add them all up. Add the 12, the 40, the 30, the 40, the 30, and the 12. Guess what you get? 164. Maybe that's the way you want to do it. Surface area is just looking at each face separately and then just adding all the areas together. So that's why it's always weird to me. Like the book always stresses, like push these formulas, push the formula, push the formula. Common sense. It's just, if this makes more sense, you do that. Just find every wall separately and add them together in the end and get the same answer anyway. You just have to know what the dimensions are. That might take you the longest part to figure out what this wall was. You can do that for any shape. Okay, questions with surface area though. Okay, volume. Volume, I stick with the formula the book has for volume. Because it's the easiest formula, there's no other way to do it. Volume is base times height. Easiest thing in the world. For a prism anyway. So the B stands for the area of the base. So what is the area of the bottom of my plate?
30.
30? We did that one earlier. That was my 30 inches squared.
Paige Smith, please come back to the high school office. Paige Smith, please come to the high school office.
All right. Okay, so that's the bottom plate is 30 inches squared. That's the area of the bottom. That's what B stands for, area of the bottom. And then how tall is my box again? 4? That's 4 inches. So then you multiply these together, and your label, when you multiply 30 and 4, Be inches cubed. Volume is always cubic. How many little sugar cubes can fit in there? That's volume. Questions? That works even if it's the weird triangle looking thing or whatever type of prism I give you. Just make sure you have the numbers, you try it out. All right, questions with a prism. I would expect some type of prism there. I don't think I'd give you a pyramid. I'd probably just give you a normal prism. Pretty straightforward. All right, let's look at number 6. Okay, number 6, it will be some type of non-polyhedra. So number 6 could be a cone, like yours, could be a sphere, or it could be a cylinder. It'll be one of the 3. I'd expect number 6 or number 5 to be a prism. Just expect it. But number 6, expect that to be one of the non-polyhedra, because those, I could pick any of them, and you have all the formulas for them. They're on your little property sheet. So let's do your cone. Let's take a look at that one. I'm gonna scroll. That's our last problem of the day, unless you have questions on the worksheet, which is due tomorrow. All right. Let's see what our is here. Okay, let's talk about the cone here. Cone formula. Defined, let's do surface area first. So if you find the cone formula, let's do surface area. It's pi RL plus pi r squared. Is that right? Is that the formula? Property sheet. All right, now what this is, if you just want the common sense way of looking at it, this part right here is how you find the area of the little body of the cone, the actual cone itself, and this part is the circle on the top of it or bottom of it. So imagine there's a lid there on your cone. So it's the common sense way of doing it. They're basically breaking into 2 parts, the cone body versus the top, and they're just adding them together. So they're not really, there's no other way to do it. Now, the only hard part about doing these is you just have to know what the letters stand for. That's the beauty if you look at your property sheet. I have them labeled what each letter stands for. Like the L stands for the slant, and H is height, and R is radius. So the radius, what's my radius of my cone?
5.
5 centimeters. Okay, that's the radius of your circle, right? Now the slant, the slanted line, that is the line that's on the diagonal. It's if you're on the surface of the cone itself, not in the cone, but on the surface of it and sliding down it, how far did you slide? 10 centimeters. That's L. Okay, is there any questions with that? That part so far? That slant is always when you're on the surface sliding down it. So like on the pyramid we did the other day, if you're on the pyramid, you're sliding down the pyramid. That's your slant. Now, pi again, plus pi. R squared, well, my R was 5 centimeters, and we have to square that. Now, when we do the math, what's 5 times 10? 50. So this is 50 pi centimeters squares. Or square centimeters. And that's that part. If you want to type that in your calculator, that'd be great. 50 times pi, give me the decimal. Great. Okay, now, 5 squared. 5 times 5? 25 pi centimeters squared. Then you have to, get that decimal and then add them together. You're looking at like 250s range, probably in that ballpark. I don't even know. Is it about 250? 260? What are we looking at?
I got
275?
230.
Did you just add 50 and 25?
I got 230.
I got
That's not big.
55.
Yeah, 235? Okay.
That's-
Again, hopefully you didn't have just 50 and 25, you had 50 pi. So you have to multiply that. That's a big decimal, it's like 150. 50 times pi.
Do you have to put like the labels on all of them for the test?
For sure at the very end. I need to see the label at the end. So if you have the label at the end, I'm good with that. You don't have to have them in the middle. I'm just putting them there so they are. Okay, questions on that so far? We're not done. We have only, what, one more step, we have to find volume?
Yeah.
The beauty of these non-polyhedra, there's really not a lot of mental effort needed. It's really just look at the formula, just kind of plug the numbers in, and just kind of type it in. It's not like the prism where you have to actually like think about it. If you have to really think about it, or if you did a pyramid, you have to think about that one, you have to find it.
I did it again. I still got 75.
Oh, it's telling you 75 pi. Oh, all right, hold on. Where's your pi button? Yeah, change your mode on it. I'll make sure tomorrow it's in the right mode. So, anyone else getting a weird thing on the calculator? That's a really nice calculator, by the way. You don't like that one later when we do some other stuff. Anyone else have a weird calculator that hasn't given them the right decimal? It wasn't actually spitting out the decimal first. It kept saying 75 pi. Fix that. Okay. Let's do volume, last part. Volume. All right, now, volume formula on your property sheet should be the 1/3 pi r squared, everything. So 1/3 pi r cubed h, or is it r squared?
It's squared.
Squared. Okay. That makes sense. It's the circle times how tall it is, and you have to cut in thirds. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Pi r squared. All right. All you have to do is plug the numbers in, and then just kind of hit enter. I'll show you kind of what to do with the fraction. You're dividing by 3. That's what it always is. If it's the 1/3, you divide by 3. If it was like 1/5, you divide by 5. But what's my r again?
5.
5. Okay. So 5, we're going to square that. It's 5 centimeters. We're going to square that. And now, what's my height?
8.7.
8.7. That came into play now. 8.7 centimeters. So we'll square the 5 first. That gives me 25. 25 centimeters squared. We'll take that times 8.7. Then we'll probably, whatever that number is, we'll divide it by 3. And then put pi on the back. Now what's my label going to be in the very end if we're doing volume?
Centimeters cubed.
Centimeters cubed. How many little sugar cubes? That's what I always think of volume. Now this is the part where I need your calculators. 25 times 8.7 divided by 3. Say it again?
Yeah, 72.5.
72.5. Okay. That's taking the 25 times 8.7 dividing by 3. That sounds about right to me. So we got 72.5 pi's, and then you have to multiply those two together. Again, that was 25 times 8.7 divided by 3. Pi still on it. Okay. Questions with anything in particular that maybe you're concerned about? You want to see another example? I can make up examples. If you want to go back to the worksheet, finish up your worksheet today, 9 points, or the 1.9, you can do that. Practice guide, this is due tomorrow. So, question?
We have a session.
Come back there in here in a second. Test is tomorrow, keep that in mind. For those who've been gone for a considerable amount of days, we'll probably have you take it next week. So, sometime next week, so you're not worried. So that way you can study your practice guide a little bit. You guys just got back, what, Tuesday and Wednesday this week? So I expect you to probably need a couple of days to get kind of climated back, get some questions answered. So if you don't want to lose this thing, like this practice guide, I'll take it. You can turn it in, you get points for it. But if you want to keep it tonight, study it over, fine, do it. Take it home. You need the property sheet tomorrow. Don't lose the property sheet. I don't want to have to print off more. You know, it's a lot printing off like 80 some of those. So try to hold on to those. Be very organized. Make sure you don't leave your notebook at home if you're going to take it home and study it today. Get that worksheet done. If any of you are going to go into distant learning or quarantine at any point, just remember I always send out a link via Zoom every day. People that have been in it can attest. I send out literally every day. It's annoying probably. Then I do the videos at night and I post them at night, and then they're usually on by the morning. You can pretty much see them. They take a while to post. I record in 4K. It takes a while, so to post. But they're always there and then you can go through it. I'm gonna backdate some old videos and stuff so you can kind of study it. But test tomorrow, keep that in mind. It's more of a quiz written, but make sure you have everything ready to go. But yeah, for those who are not gonna be here tomorrow, or not testing tomorrow, we'll have you take it next week sometime. Any questions that I'm not thinking of? Okay, here you go.